Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
Good evening and welcome to Spring Global on Western Spring Television. Now the headlines. Russian President Vladimir Putin meets Belarusian counterpart Alexander Lukashenko in St. Petersburg. Ethiopian Airlines to resume flights to the capital of the war-torn region of Tigray from tomorrow. Taiwan extend compulsory military service from 4 months to a year. My name is Okoyemuni. We now begin with a story from Russia, as Russian President Vladimir Putin has met with Belarusian counterpart Alexander Lukashenko at a museum in St. Petersburg. Footage from Belarusian media outlet Nexta shows the two leaders speaking in front of cameras inside the country's state Russian museum earlier this morning. Last week, the Russian leader and his Belarusian counterpart extolled ever closer ties as Mr. Putin visited Minsk for the first time since 2019. Russian forces used Belarus as a launch pad for the invasion of Ukraine in February, but Mr. Lukashenko has repeatedly said his country will not be drawn into Ukraine. He has also said recent military exercises were not aimed at Ukraine and dismissed conspiracy theories about deployments of Belarusian armed forces at the border. Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba says his nation wants a summit to end the war but does not anticipate Russia taking part at a time when both sides are locked in intense battlefield exchanges. Kuleba stated this during an interview, adding that his country's government wants a peace summit within 2 months at the United Nations with Secretary General Antonio Guterres as mediator. Kuleba said Russia must face a war crimes tribunal before his country talks with Moscow direct. He, however, called on other nations to feel free to engage with the Russians, as happened seen with the grain agreement between Turkey and Russia. UN, responding to the proposal, said the Secretary General had over time said it would only mediate if all parties want him to mediate.
At the end of February, when the war will kind of enter its second, or is expected to enter its second year, the idea of the peace formula is twofold. On the one hand, not to allow Russia to manipulate the issue of peace, because they regularly say that they are ready for negotiations, which is not true, because everything they do on the battlefield proves the opposite, proves to the contrary. They are not seeking peace. We think that the United Nations could be the best venue for holding this summit, because this is not about making a favor to a certain country. This is really about bringing everyone on board.
Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky has said power shortages still persisted in the war-torn country with nearly 9 million people without electricity. Zelensky stated this in his nightly video address, stating that power workers repairing the grid after repeated Russian attacks had reconnected many people over Christmas, but problems still remains. He said the situation in different regions of Ukraine is that nearly 9 million people are without electricity, adding that the numbers and the length of the blackouts are gradually decreasing. The United Kingdom Police has commenced murder investigation into the death of a 23-year-old man who was stabbed to death on the dance floor of a Birmingham nightclub. It was gathered that the man was fatally injured at the crane on Adderley Street, Digbeth, but before 11:45 on December 26, West Midland Police revealed that despite efforts to save him, he was pronounced dead about 30 minutes later. Detective Mitchell Toggood said the incident happened during a Boxing Day event featuring well-known techno DJ Marco Carola. that started at 1500 GMT. According to the police, the victim is believed to have been approached by a group before being stabbed. Turkey has summoned France's ambassador over what it called black propaganda by Kurdish activists during the march to mourn 3 people killed in the shooting at a Kurdish cultural center in Paris. According to local media, French ambassador Eve Magro was summoned yesterday so Ankara could relay unease after some marched in Paris with flags of the banned Kurdistan Workers' Party. It reported that Turkey expects France to act prudently over the incident and not to allow the banned PKK terrorist organization to advance its sneaky agenda. On Saturday, members of France's Kurdish community and anti-racism activists joined together in Paris in a demonstration a day after a Kurdish neighborhood was targeted by a gunman who has admitted racist motivations. Local ethnic Serbs have erected more roadblocks in northern Kosovo and defied demands from the Kosovo government to remove barriers put in place. The new barriers formed with loaded trucks were installed in the early hours of today in the town of Mitrovica. The town divides between Kosovo Serbs and ethnic Albanians who represent the majority in Kosovo as a whole. This comes as Serbia placed its security forces on the border with Kosovo in a full state of combat readiness amid increasingly strained relations with its neighbor. In a statement, Serbia's defense minister Milos Vukovic said the president had ordered the Serbian army to be on the highest level of combat readiness. He stated that Serbian President Alexander Vučić also ordered the special armed forces to be beefed up from the existing 1,500 to 5,000. Emergency services in Spain have confirmed a 7th death after a bus plunged from a bridge into a river on Christmas Eve. Rescuers retrieved the body of a woman from the Llereb River in the northwestern Galicia region. 2 people, including the driver, were hurt after the bus traveling from Lugo to Vigo fell from a height of about 30 meters into the fast-flowing river. Officials say bad weather may have caused the crash. In Africa, Ethiopian Airlines will resume flights to the capital of the war-torn northern region of Tigray starting on Wednesday. The first commercial flight to Tigray about 18 months. The announcement comes a day after a delegation of government officials and heads of public enterprises visited Mekelle to discuss the implementation of last month's peace agreement. In a statement, Ethiopian Airlines CEO Mesfin Tessiu, who was part of the delegation to Mekelle, said the resumption of the flights would enable families to reunite, facilitate the restoration of commercial activities. This comes as state media report that almost the entire region is now connected to the national power grid and telecoms services has been restored in 27 towns. Outside Africa, Chinese officials say the country will scrap quarantine for travelers from the 8th of January, marking the last major shift from the country's zero-COVID policy. After almost 3 years of closed borders, this will reopen the country to those with work and study visas or seeking to visit family. But it comes as China struggles with the virus's ferocious spread in the wake of restrictions being lifted. Report says hospitals are overwhelmed and elderly people are dying. The true toll daily case counts and deaths is currently unknown because officials have stopped releasing COVID data. Beijing had reported about 4,000 new COVID infections each day last week and few deaths. At least 15 people were injured when a wild leopard went on a rampage in the Indian state of Assam. The animals do not usually attack human beings unless provoked, but terrifying footage shared on social media today showed the animal leaping over a barbed wire fence much higher than the height of any human being and launching itself at a moving van. Those injured had been bitten by the animal but were all expected to make a full recovery. Officials said the animal first attacked forest officials at the Rainforest Research Institute on the outskirts of the city of Joat before fleeing the campus and entering into neighboring villages under the cover of dense tea garden vegetation. Animal was successfully tranquilized and will undergo a medical examination before it is released into Assam's Kaziranga National Park, which is also home to the world's largest population of the Indian one-horned rhinoceros. A video posted on social media appeared to show the leopard attempting unsuccessfully to pull a large tranquilizer dart out of its neck. You're watching Spring Global on Western Spring Television. We'll be right back after this break.
Evelyn Ohiole,
Hi.
King Eve. How are you today?
I'm good, I'm fine, I'm alive.
I really feel like she's not giving the right answer to the question. When one asks you, how are you? And you said, you're saying, I'm alive. It's very annoying, seriously. How are you? I'm fine. I feel I'm fine would be the right answer instead of I'm alive. Not that I asked you if you're dead before.
Go and check all these 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, everybody, they are extraordinarily sexually active.
Michael, I feel is being unnecessarily hyper when it comes to the issue of sex, because we talk about other topics and he feels so reserved. He really doesn't have anything much to say when it comes to other stuff. But when it's the issue of sex, I believe he's being unnecessarily hyper. That's when I have to pick an issue with him. I mean, it's just been unnecessarily there.
Welcome back on Spring Global on Western Spring Television. Now to the rest of our stories. Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen says the country will extend compulsory military service from its current 4 months to 1 year starting from 2024 as the several island comes under increasing Chinese military pressure. Tsai speaking after a national security meeting, she had called to discuss reinforcing the island's civil defense, said Taiwan wanted peace but needed to be able to defend itself. Tsai stated that the current military system, including training reservists, is inefficient and insufficient to cope with China's rising military threat, especially if it launched a rapid attack on the island. She added that as long as Taiwan is strong enough, it will be the home of democracy and the freedom all over the world, and it will not become a battlefield. At least 185 Rohingya refugees have landed in Indonesia's northernmost province of Aceh after drifting at sea for weeks. The boat came ashore in Ujung Pai village yesterday, a day after a wooden vessel with 57 Rohingya people landed in another part of Aceh on Christmas Day. In a statement, Aceh police spokesman Winadi said the group consists of 83 adult males, 70 adult women, and 32 children. A video shared by local residents showed the Rohingya, including children, lying on the beach, visibly weak and exhausted. Earlier today, the United Nations has said at least 20 Rohingya have died at sea in recent weeks. The UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, has set the number of Rohingya undertaking such dangerous journeys by boat had increased sixfold this year compared with 2021. 6 members of the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, SDF, have been killed in an attack on the Sea of Raha. In a statement, SDF commander Mazlum Abdi said that an ISIS cell had targeted security and military buildings in the city, killing 6 fighters and wounding an unspecified number of others. He added that intelligence gathered by the group indicates serious preparations by ISIS cells. A spokesman for the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, Siamand Ali, told Newsprint that a group of 5 people believed to be part of an ISIL sleeper cell, 2 of them wearing explosive belts, had attacked checkpoints and guard points of Raqqa's internal security forces. It said during the ensuing clashes, one of the attackers was killed and another arrested, while internal security forces units are searching for the remaining attackers. South Korea's military has apologized for failing to shoot down 5 drones from North Korea that flew across their mutual border yesterday. Seoul fired warning shots and sent jets and attack helicopters to shoot down the aircraft, one of which flew close to the capital. However, South Korea's President Yoon Suk-yeol, speaking at a cabinet meeting today, said the incident showed the military's readiness was greatly lacking. The president said he would seek to speed up the creation of a military unit to monitor North Korea's military facilities in response to yesterday's incident, adding that the unit will be supplied with cutting-edge stealthy drones. He also blamed his predecessor, Moon Jae-in, for his dangerous North Korea policy that included a 2018 inter-Korean military pact banning hostile activities in the border areas. In a statement, South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff acknowledged that while the military can counterattack drones that pose a real threat, it is limited in its ability to detect and strike smaller spy drones. In the U.S., at least 28 people have died in western New York, most of them in Buffalo, as a monster winter storm continues to batter North America. A state official said some people have been trapped in cars for more than 2 days during what was probably the worst storm of their lifetime. Meteorologists warned that up to 9 more inches of snow are expected in parts of the state throughout today. The storm, stretching from Canada to the Mexican border, has killed 56 people, while some others are struck on highways. U.S. President Joe Biden approved an emergency declaration allowing federal support for New York State.
I learned to drive driving in the Rocky Mountains out west. I've been up the Alaska Highway. I've never seen anything like this or anything mishandled like this. There's no reason that the main roads can't be open and the Peace Bridge can't be open. This is complete failure. And I'm glad I'm this. I didn't think I would ever want to retire. This has just pushed it even that I want to go sooner.
Peru has detained 6 people, including 3 police generals, as part of an ongoing probe into accusations of corruption against former President Pedro Castillo, who was impeached and removed from office earlier this month. An anti-corruption task force in the Attorney General's office disclosed this, stating that it carried out a mega operation as part of its investigation into allegations that Castillo's government authorized irregular promotions for police and military officers. It revealed that 3 of the 6 people arrested are active police generals accused of having approved promotions with Castillo's alleged blessing in exchange for money. The Interior Ministry also said it had seized documents and devices in more than 24 searches across the country, including at 2 homes linked to Castillo's former defense minister, Walter Ayala. Castillo was arrested after legislators voted him out of office on December 7 for attempting to dissolve Congress and rule by decree. He's been investigated for influence peddling. In business, crude oil prices hit a 3-week high today as China's latest easing of COVID-19 restrictions spurred hopes of a fuel demand recovery, with further support coming from cuts to U.S. energy production caused by winter storms. China will stop requiring inbound travelers to go into quarantine starting from January 8th, in a major step towards easing curbs on borders that have been largely shut since 2020. Brent crude was up 22 cents at $84.14 a barrel, while U.S. crude gained 7 cents to $79.63 a barrel. Both benchmarks hit the highest since December 5th, earlier in the session. The United Arab Emirates Minister of State for Foreign Trade says Russia's non-oil trade with the UAE has broken all records this year. Thani bin Ahmed Al Zayedi, in a tweet, said Russia's non-oil trade with the UAE grew by 57% to reach $5.5 billion in the first 9 months of 2022. He further disclosed that he met with the president of Tatarstan, Rustam Minnikhanov, one of Russia's most industrialized republics, to discuss how trade can push to even greater heights. And now to the world of sports. Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta says club great Arsene Wenger picked the right moment to go back to Emirates Stadium as he saw them underline their title credentials. Arteta's young team produced a second-half fight-back to beat West Ham and move 7 points clear at the top of the Premier League, which was resuming after the World Cup. Wenger, who was the last Arsenal manager to win the title, made his first return since stepping down in 2018. Arsenal extended their lead at the top over Newcastle, who moved second by beating Leicester earlier yesterday. Reigning champions Manchester City, who go to Leeds United tomorrow, are now 8 points behind the Gunners.
No, the players didn't know. Obviously, we wanted to keep it quiet and allow that space for Arsene. Stan and George are here as well, and it was a really special day. Thank you so much for him coming. Hopefully, walking through the building, he's going to feel everything that everybody thinks of him, everything that he left here, but as well his presence is something that has to be very, very attached to this football club. So thank you for doing that, because it means a lot, I think, for everybody at the club.
Before we end Spring Global, here's a recap of our top stories. Russian President Vladimir Putin has met his Belarusian counterpart Alexander Lukashenko at a museum in St. Petersburg. Ethiopian Airlines will resume flights to the capital of the war-torn northern region of Tigray starting on Wednesday, the first commercial flights to Tigray in about 18 months. Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen says the country will extend compulsory military service from its current 4 months to 1 year starting from 2024 as the self-ruled island comes under increasing Chinese military pressure. You can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. I am Okoye Muni. Thanks for watching.